Outside the estate of the Duke of Cornwall, Lord and Marshal Emerson, we look down at several cainites gathered together this evening, along with one priest captive, Father Juan Felipe. Tito, Quinn, and Simon, you are all together as Abel departed moments ago, apologizing and explaining he had to attend to business elsewhere tonight, but noting Helen's haven to Simon before leaving. And it is still relatively early in the night. Father Juan Felipe looks mildly despondent and stands there quietly beside you all. And I leave the scene to the three of you.
Well then, I have a meeting with Marco soon-ish. But first I must attend to some duties. There was a breach in the Masquerade. Perhaps, Simon, are you interested in helping me out this time?
What sort of breach in the Masquerade?
Apparently, some sewer worker discovered a monster. Sounds familiar.
Very familiar.
I have a plan to discredit this sewer worker. Would you happen to have opium, or know someone who does?
It sounds as if the dear man fell afoul of some sewer gases that caused an unfortunate hallucination.
Precisely. Although it would help to have some physical evidence of this gas.
I'm not sure if I can get my hands on any of that. But I can try, I suppose. Especially to save my own skin.
It's worth a try. How about you, Quinn? You seem like the sort that may know someone who trades in this.
It's possible that I do, but if so, I don't know the man. And they haven't made it apparent to me.
Fair enough. With the results of tonight's success, I feel offering the title of Hound. If you both would like it.
I'm not quite sure the prince would.
Indeed. That would be something I am unaware of. I suppose he already does have a guarantee from you.
There's a black stain on my heart right now, as far as the other cainites are concerned.
Fair enough. And you, Quinn, would you accept this honorary title, or?
I shall add it to my calling card.
Wonderful.
He shouldn't be too hard to discredit. He was an idiot. Albeit a quick one.
Well then, if that's that, I believe Quinn has research on the plague to do.
Indeed, I have a delivery I'm expecting at my estate.
Wonderful. We should meet again, Simon. Later this evening, after preparations have been made to deal with this breach in the Masquerade. And another thing I would like to request of you, if you are feeling risky.
Simon looks notably nervous.
You're not going to tell me you want to attack the Tower of London or something like that, are you?
No, but it does have its own share of danger.
How do I keep attracting all of this?
Must be your charming personality. But no, Marco has drawn my suspicions with this night. When I meet with him this evening, I wonder if you could maybe come with in the shadows, investigate his estate while I speak with him. See if you can dig up any suspicious activity that would be investigation.
Oh. Now that I could do, it sounds like fun.
Wonderful.
Especially since Abel has left me in the dirt. We were supposed to meet Helen tonight.
Unfortunate. Well, this sounds like the perfect replacement for a night.
Yes, I'm afraid she'll just have to wait.
See what you can get on the opium side. I'll meet you in Elysium when things are ready.
See you soon.
Ta-ta.
And with that, Simon will depart, cloaking himself in shadows.
Quinn also meanders off in the direction of his estate.
Tito will head off with Father Felipe in tow his haven.
Perfect. We will change scenes as we follow Tito. You said you're going to your haven?
Yes.
Alright. Give me one moment. Alright. We follow Tito as he returns, Father Juan Felipe in tow, back to the Blackfriar Priory. It is still relatively early. It's perhaps going on 11 at night. There's still much of the night that remains. Father Juan Felipe continues to follow you, still seemingly under the control of your gifts.
Upon reaching his haven, Tito would actually seek out his sire's guards to find a cell for guest.
It's not too much trouble to find one of your guards. In fact, one of the same ones you managed to intimidate the last time they dared question your commands, and they seem to still have the fear driven in them. And you see that in their eyes as this man comes up. Yes, my lord.
You there. I need you to keep an eye on this man. Keep him in a cell.
Of course. He nods and looks to the side where he sees a few rooms off down a hallway. This way, please. And he begins moving off in that direction. But Father Juan Felipe continues to stare at you. What do you mean to do?
For now, you will wait. There's a good chance you will survive. For now.
Fine. And I will wait. He says, planting his feet and folding his arms. The other man looks between the two of you.
Keep a close eye on this one. He is closely tied to the cleanse, and it would be terrible if he went missing.
Yes, of course. This guard seems to nod, and he stands closer, looking ready and alert.
Tito will nod satisfied and leave Father Felipe in this guard's capable hands.
Alright, and you said you mean to try and find your sire, or what are you doing?
From here, sure, he'll seek out his sire. Just give a quick report on how things are going.
Doesn't take long to find your sire back in her, her circular chamber down at the end of the nave of the actual chapel. And you enter and you see that there again at the base of this circular room that descends toward the center, she is sitting in meditation. There's almost no light in this room, of course.
Tito will offer a deep bow.
She seems to respond to that without any noise and opens her eyes, rising from the knelt position she had been sitting in. Tito, it has been several nights since we spoke. How fare you?
These nights have been successful, I'll say.
I can see on your face that you are near to the turning point. I am pleased to see this.
That I am. I'm so close now.
It is good that you are. I should mention now, as well as any time, I have plans for us, for you and I. The glory of the Abyss should be spread. I intend to make more followers, to find others who might understand, as your sibling Robin did not. What I mean is I mean to sire again. Soon, perhaps. We will build the influence slowly over time. Perhaps you should consider looking for that opportunity as well. Gain that right from Ambrose.
Indeed. I will be on the lookout for potentials.
She nods with a slight smile. The La Sombra have been small in this city for too long. I intend to change that. But no clan here will appreciate a growth in our power. So we must take careful steps.
It is as you say. I do seek your wisdom this night, however.
Of course. Come, sit, she says, beckoning a hand.
Tito will step in closer to take a seat.
She kneels down beside you.
I was approached by a ominous figure. He goes by the name Leviticus.
Leviticus.
Yes. Suspect he is Black Levi of legend.
Ah, yes. So he is real then.
You are perhaps familiar with him?
Perhaps no more than the legends that you have heard of Black Levi and the many incredible things that he is said to have done in his time in this area.
He came to me and offered a revelation of sorts. It spoke of a stronger plague that would consume all of Europa. And he spoke of a Vatic.
It is alarming news, but this Vadik, I do not recognize that name. A stronger plague that will consume all of Europa. How does he know this?
That was his warning. Apparently, he was in contact with the Malkavian the night so many of us died.
I see. Perhaps it is not unwise to heed the words of the Cassandras, but it is neither here nor there. What did this Leviticus say then? Simply that this will happen?
Mostly warnings and offer of help if we do face this bringer of plagues. But another interesting thing has happened. I've been able to capture Father Philippe with the help of Marco Vespucci.
Excellent work, my child, she says, nodding with a smile.
It was troubling, though. In my questioning, he mentioned another name, Vatic, as well. Apparently, Vatic has set the whole cleanse in motion. And if it is to believe, this was once the sire of Prince Adam and his sibling.
Vadik is the sire of Adam and Reynaldo.
Correct. This is what I've learned from Black Levi.
I see. That is troubling news as well. These are potent cainites you are dealing with, and old. It concerns me that they would approach you, that this Leviticus would approach you then. Why he would not approach Ambrose or any of the Primogen.
I've thought the same. The Malkavians seem to have placed trust in those of the younger generation. Something with this vision, no doubt.
She narrows her eyes somewhat at that. Strange. But you said Marco Vespucci aided you in this?
Indeed, and the circumstances were most suspicious.
There's a suspicious time as well, as I have heard and seen his attempts at gaining favor for the status of Primogen of the Ventru.
That's not too much of a surprise to me. And part of gaining this assistance, I've let him know ahead of time what fate would befall Rose.
I'm sorry I didn't hear that last part. Out of character.
Anyway, Tito's explaining that he alerted Marco to Ruby Pierce's status.
Ruby's status.
Yes.
In that her status is destruction.
Or potential destruction. Marco hadn't really.
You cut out at the end.
Sorry. Marco's had an early warning of her potential status, potential demise, captured at the hands of the sheriff.
I see. You alerted him so that he could prepare. Or at least that is what he did with your information.
Indeed.
And then he helped you under suspicious circumstances to gain the father here.
Yes, it would not be perhaps too suspicious if the one note that he sent that let us have free reign of this Duke's estate didn't come with what I believe was Dr. Fontaine, a Malkavian, masquerading as the Duke.
I'd heard a rumor that his and his child's haven had gone up in flames, that something horrible had happened.
Oh yes, I was there.
Her eyes widen a bit.
The second time I've barely escaped the clutches of death.
Indeed, you put yourself in danger frequently, I find. He says in something akin to a motherly scold. But this Fontaine, he is sought after, as I understand it, for implication in the death of another cainite. But you suspect that he is at this estate.
Indeed. For the Duke displayed telling mannerisms that I've only seen the good doctor use.
He does tend to leave an impression. On the scant few times I have seen him, he was most perturbing.
Troubles me is that on investigating the doctor's known haven, it was set aflame while we were in his cellar, looking upon his notes. Why the doctor would leave these notes behind is unknown to me. Or his ties to all of this.
It is curious. Do you suspect he is the one who attempted to destroy you in his own haven?
That is what conclusions first point to, as he was no longer there. Shortly after investigating the cellar, someone slaughtered every cain inside the building and set it ablaze.
Perhaps he never expected those notes to make it out.
Perhaps. Why would he simply abandon so much research? Unless he's picked a side.
The Cassandras are often enigmatic. Their true purpose cannot always be immediately pinpointed, I have found. It is likely he does have a side in this, if there is such a thing as sides to be had in what sounds very convoluted. But if he has picked one, it may not become clear for some time.
Well, that is what's been going on these nights.
Amidst all of this, I must remind you that your highest priority should always be protecting yourself and study of the Abyss. Your status as Hound investigating these problems of the city, they should only be secondary to these goals, only in the extent that they help you gain power, that you may aid what we may one night create here. A true following of the Abyss.
I much look forward to that. Lately, my progress seems to have reached a wall that I hope to climb over.
Be cautious of Vespucci. He is well connected, and he has his guiles, as we all do.
I will heed your warning. I do intend not to get into anything.
She nods. And what of my replacement? Of the one I gave you?
I was just thinking of making some headway on that recently. Perhaps I can find some help from Camille in this regard.
Yes, you should pay attention to your slave more, Tito. She cries often, it is very distracting.
Tito nods.
I spare her for your sake, but my patience only extends so far.
Yes, mistress. I will see what I can do about that.
Good. Now go. And she reaches up to kiss your forehead before kneeling back again.
Tito closes his eyes, accepts the kiss as he prepares to depart. He intends to head towards Camille.
Alright. As you head in that direction, I'm going to segue to another part of London. We will catch up with Quinn. Quinn, you said you were heading back to your estate. Is that correct?
Indeed.
Alright. So as we follow Quinn through the streets of London back to his estate, and you do eventually make it back in enough time, you find that it seems your carriage has returned, and there are several crates as well as a barrel that have been set down, offloaded from it.
Is the coach driver still hanging around or no?
He is. He's standing by, ready at attention. He turns to face you as you make yourself visible.
So Quinn will nod. make his way over to the barrel specifically and make sure it's the right one. Pop it open and look inside.
Inside, you see the same brown-robed man who's curled up and crumpled into this barrel.
He'll push the cover back on. What are in the rest of these?
Empty, my lord, he says, looking straight at you.
Quinn looks pleased. Very good. It wouldn't do to have a whole carriage loaded down with but a single barrel. Excellent work.
He nods.
I'll see your wages this month doubled.
Oh, thank you, my lord. And he bows.
Quinn bends down and picks up the barrel, and keeping up appearances, he'll roll it on one side and roll it up to the estate himself.
All right.
You're dismissed for the evening.
He bows quietly again and departs.
Once Quinn's sure he's alone, he'll go ahead and shoulder the barrel and carry it the rest of the way.
And you're able to do just that. You manage to pick up the barrel and see that none of your other staff are visible as you make your way indoors.
He doesn't wait too much or waste too much time and just heads directly for the catacombs beneath his estate, where he'll pop open the barrel and find a way to restrain this man as best he can, preferably chains secured to the wall.
You're able to do that. That's a simple enough task to chain up a man by one of the columns inside these catacombs. He's still unconscious right now.
The supplies Simon and I had gathered, I'm assuming we delivered those here, and they're at least present.
Yes, they are present and available. They're not organized or anything, but they're in the proper location at least.
I'm just going to go ahead and start organizing his lab space while the unconscious man remains unconscious.
Given how much you took from him, you suspect he'll be out until at least the morning.
Right. In the meantime, let's see. First things first. Blood samples. He's going to take a small measure from both himself and the kind.
All right.
Just enough for a smear.
Sure. That's easy enough to do with blades and containers readily at hand, and him unconscious, not making any sounds. You're able to make a collection of both your own vitae and his blood into separate containers.
Now, based on what I know about Dr. Fontaine's work, do I have any ideas as to how to proceed with testing of his cure or manufacturing his cure, moving forward with that process?
Make an intelligence medicine roll. We'll go with difficulty 5, given that you're pretty familiar with the research notes by now. You could probably deduce this. You are very easily able to figure out, based on the notes, that if you were looking for blood that had plague in it, at least based on these notes, that you would be able to almost distill something like a dark toxin removed from the vitae, and that otherwise the vitae would be noticeably, look for the right word, murkier, cloudier. There'd be something else in it.
Not having healthy vitae here for comparison, I'm going to have to go based on experience. Do either of these samples look like they're so afflicted?
With a perception...
Perception medicine?
Yeah, perception medicine. We'll do that. Standard difficulty. Currently, this does not look like any different vitae than any other vitae you've ever seen.
Okay. So you said something about a distillation process.
Yes.
I want to be sure. Quinn's quite paranoid, given all that's gone down. So, and also because kindred. How might I go about that distillation process, or would I know?
I'll spare you the roll since you already looked
Fair
up
enough.
how to, deduce a lot of this. From the notes you read, this distillation, almost the separation of the vitae from whatever this dark toxin was that was afflicting the humors, so far as these notes explain, required exsanguination. It required a wash of removing of the vitae and then filling the cainite body with more, and then basically diluting it to the point that you had removed all of it from past washes.
So basically transfusion.
More or less, in modern terms, yes.
But more like...
On an extreme level.
So more like dialysis. On that level.
Kind of.
Multiple transfusions over a relatively short period of time.
Yes.
So, okay. That's gonna be relatively extreme. So how would I... that sounds like it would only work with cainites.
You did note that many of the kind did not survive this process.
Did any of the kind survive?
If they did, it was likely an earlier and less extreme version of this.
But were they still cured?
They were.
Okay, so theoretically, I'm working through what you're telling me. Theoretically, to cure a kind, it simply requires a full blood transfusion, which would be possible so long as you had multiple donors involved and they were all healthy. Determining whether or not one of the donors was healthy wouldn't be too terribly difficult. I totally just closed out roll 20. Hold on.
And while you're doing that, I'll clarify that those who did survive likely only survived because of infusions of his own vitae.
So ghouls.
Yes.
There are worse ways to survive.
Of course, that's kind.
How many kindred survived?
Let me look over my notes before I give you the wrong information.
Fair enough.
Only one for sure.
Is a name given?
Tristan.
So Tristan did survive.
Yes. He survived the process.
Whether or not he survived after that seems unlikely.
Yes, there are other alleged examples in his notes that are very disorganized, but you are able to tell that there were other cainites that he was tracking on, but it's not clear what happened to them.
Is Ford's name mentioned at all?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did he discover a means of transmission? as far as cainites are concerned.
The only certain transmission he found was through bites, though he suspects that there are other ways.
As in having been bitten, or as in having fed from an infected vessel?
As in having been bitten, at least. You do have to take all of this with a grain of salt, as some of this is incomplete. What I'm giving you is what Quinn refines as what he can be sure of, at the very least.
Based on someone else's work.
Yes.
But okay, last one I really absolutely got to get. Does he mention anything about an incubation period, time that the illness is dormant while still being detectable? In other words, how soon after having been infected was he able to detect the presence of the plague?
It varies from cainite to cainite. There were some who reported it within hours of exposure, and some who did not experience any signs or symptoms for 7 nights. That's the longest, was 7 nights.
So he's gonna, in that case, meander over to his new captive and pat him on the cheek. So far, so good, my new friend. Let us both pray that these findings continue to bode well for both of us.
To your taps, he kind of falls over to one side and his mouth kind of hangs open.
Quinn's going to go upstairs and let Marjorie know to come and check on his new patient sometime after dawn. Bring food, bring wine. He'll be quite distraught.
She readily obeys to your request.
If he asks, he was attacked, and we are giving him aid, but for his own safety, he needs to be restrained.
She nods knowingly and obediently. What does Quinn mean to do with the rest of the night?
Quinn is going to go double check his notes again. Would I know the transfusions being done? Were they done with when it comes to cainites? Was it other cainite blood being transfused, or was it just any old vitae?
It seemed like animals' blood was being used. Very dilute stuff.
Okay.
Large quantities seem to be used.
I wonder. There's not... What I need is a means of preserving blood long term. And that way I can collect a large quantity and use that as the transfusion without necessarily killing the donor in the process. I just wonder if the science isn't up for it, is it though?
It would be... yeah, that'd be very high chance of killing the patient in this day and age. You know, without supernatural intervention or anything.
Well, let me double check something. What I need is an anticoagulant. That's what I need.
But would Quinn know what that is?
I mean,
In 1345.
I feel like 2 dots of medicine might give him an idea of what coagulation is.
I think if it was 2001, 2 dots of medicine would.
I mean, coagulation as a concept is pretty easy to observe.
Most doctors in this day and age are talking about balancing the 4 humors and spirits in the skull and that kind of thing. Most would probably prescribe bloodletting for what you're thinking of.
Well, what I'm thinking of is stopping it from clotting while it's being stored. So, let's see. Turmeric, which he'd have on hand. Horse chestnut, garlic, ginger, hawthorn. Willow, which isn't native to England.
Make an intelligence medicine roll difficulty 8, and I'll say that this is something that you could totally pursue. This is very cutting edge for the age. Okay, fair enough. This does seem like an idea that might work.
Like I said, blood naturally clots outside of the body, so it's not something that you wouldn't be able to observe. Natural blood spoilage over time, it clots. Stopping that from happening, stopping the spoilage of blood.
Right, and it occurs to you that you could use that as some kind of treatment option. Possibly.
And that's something I can test with animal blood rather than human blood and minimize the body count.
So what does Quinn mean to do now?
Quinn is going to measure out, we'll say, about, I should have turmeric on hand. Spice merchant, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. I'm gonna have Marjorie send for the farrier, and have him do a very light bloodletting on the draft horses. Shouldn't be more than, say, a pint each. And once he's gone, he's to have instructions to gather that blood into these jars. And once he's gone, she should... I'm going to leave her with about 10 grams of turmeric. That should be plenty. And I'm going to have her add probably 5 grams worth of that turmeric to one of the jars, and then about half as much to the other. So she wouldn't need 10 whole grams, but that's beside the point. And we'll see which one shows greater clotting or better success.
So you're, just to summarize that, you're leaving this to your ghoul to basically collect, right, to have this this man collect blood from your draft horses and then treat some of it with turmeric to see if it has an anticoagulation effect on the blood.
Right.
Okay.
Or at least see what to what degree it prevents clotting.
That's fair. I don't think those instructions are terribly difficult, so I'll forego the roll. And I assume that's going to happen like in the morning while Quinn is asleep?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, is there anything else Quinn wants to see done before the night is over?
I think for the time being, that's probably it. That's all I'm going to be able to get done that evening, honestly.
Alright, fair enough. With that, we will switch scenes. Alright, we're catching up with Simple Simon as he makes his way off into the night. And Simon, are you heading in the direction of Helen's, or where is Simon going tonight now?
No, his plan was to go to Helen's with Abel, and since that's not going to happen, he's going to have to let it go for now. He's going to look into this opium thing. He's going to go to his old friend Marcus again. He knows that Marcus doesn't deal in such things, but he might know someone who does.
Alright, fair enough. I would say you find Marcus, and he is again awake at this hour, and he doesn't have any opium himself, as you might have guessed, but he does know a somewhat shady gentleman that works near the docks who he has had dealings with in the past, and he very likely would have something like that. His name is Dunbar.
All right.
So you making your way down to the water to see if you can find him then?
Indeed. He'll thank his old friend Marcus and make his way down to the docks, an area of town which he knows quite well.
Perfect. Never occurred to me to put a dock setting. I'll have to add that later. Before long, you're able to make your way down to the waterfront area and down to the wooden planks that go down into the docks where many ships are moored. There is a sign that is still blocking off a lot of the western area where it says, warning, plague, that you are familiar with is actually not true. But based on Marcus's description, you're able to find the warehouse in this area that you were told Dunbar might be at this hour. And indeed, you see that this warehouse you're directed to, and by description you find it. There is some lights on. Even though it's close to around midnight, you hear some movement from inside.
He'll creep his way slowly forward to see if he might get a closer look at who's making this light. And he will be obfuscated at this point.
Inside, you see what looks like a single man working with a few ensconced torches. He's moving some crates around. He's got his hood up. He's kind of a skulking individual who's moving perhaps what he thinks is quietly, but he's clearly not being that discreet about it. It looks like he's loading up a carriage on the inside, actually.
Simon looks around. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, you catch a glimpse of his face for just a moment, and it does look like, by description, that this might in fact be the man you were told.
Excellent. Is there anyone around besides him inside?
No, it looks like it's just him.
Okay. Simon will drop his obfuscation then, and he will put on a mask. I am going to spend a point of blood so that he is able to get an appearance above 1.
Alright, manipulation performance, difficulty 7. That's enough, and with the blood expenditure, you are able to portray yourself as somebody of common enough appearance. You don't look out of the ordinary at all, really.
That will be good enough. He will knock on the door forcefully.
Oh, what? Who's there? You see the man turn abruptly.
I'm a friend of a friend. Hoping we could have a chat.
Ain't got many friends around here anymore.
All right, not a friend, then a business acquaintance.
He has these shifty eyes that scan you over. He's clearly very suspicious and very paranoid looking. What kind of business?
The mutual friend I speak of is Marcus of Bathgate. Which whom, if you know him at all, you'll know is rather discreet. He would not share your name with me unless he trusted me implicitly.
Well, you know Marcus then. What you want?
I need something difficult to obtain.
What kind of difficult?
Tincture of poppy.
He smirks for a moment. That all?
Is that all?
Simon's mask looks taken aback.
Well, yes, I suppose it is. I didn't realize it was such a simple request.
Well, you'd be surprised kind of requests I get, especially the last few months.
Now, here's the difficult part. I need a sizable amount.
Now we're talking. How much?
The question is, how much would Quinn have told him to get?
Quinn or Tito?
I was going to say,
Oh,
you're
I'm
not
sorry,
getting,
Tito.
yeah,
Not
you're
Tito.
not getting this for Quinn.
Enough to frame a sewer worker.
Is that the metric measurement or the standard?
You estimate maybe a couple barrels worth. I would say you both know that.
Barrels. Oh my gosh.
I was hoping for a couple barrels.
Couple barrels. What, you trying to get the whole city under snuff?
Actually, if I'm being honest with you, I need enough to frame just one man.
Huh. Yeah, that'll do it. Get enough of that around. Tell you what, I'll maybe have some in one of these crates in the back here. Not that they were officially mine. Might be able to part with some of them.
I was hoping you'd say that. How much? For the barrels and your discretion.
£1 each for the barrels. Take £1 for myself.
It sounds more than fair, I think.
What's your name, mate?
You may call me Oliver.
Right then, Oliver. Suppose you know I'm Dunbar. I don't suppose you know, never mind. I doubt you would know somebody that ugly.
Now hold on a moment. If I can do you a favor, I'd be more than happy to do so. And there are many people I know.
Was working for a bloke. Had me do a few things for him. Quite some time. I knew him through the trade, so to speak. I don't know what his true name was, but he always went by Grey Rat. I haven't seen him in a while, and I got this strange feeling a few nights ago. I don't know, woke me up. Just got this odd sensation. You ever heard of him?
Simon will try to keep his face placid if you want me to make a roll for that, because he is surprised. I will.
Make a manipulation performance roll, say standard difficulty. You can re-roll at 10, but you're able to pull this off. Yeah, you're stone-faced at this.
I know the man. Or I should say, I did. I hate to be the one to break the news to you, but you won't be seeing Grey Rat around here again.
Well, you get pinched, did he?
He did. And unfortunately, some of his cellmates took exception. He was unfortunately killed in the night.
Oh. He looks down. Well, thanks for telling me.
I wouldn't want you to go looking for him and get yourself into trouble. However, if you wish, I'd be happy to make myself a new contact.
He looks up from the ground back to you. Well, if you knew Grey Rat, I don't know.
Tell you what, how about I prove myself to you first?
Alright.
Name a task you want done. Something not too difficult, mind, just something that might ease your mind about my intentions.
Well, this carriage here, I'm loading up with goods that ain't exactly of the legal kind. Was planning on doing this run out of London myself, but maybe you, someone you know, could take this off me. I'm trying to avoid some heat right now.
Now you're speaking my language. And in fact, I know just the man to help you with this.
Is that right?
How about I send him round tomorrow during the daytime?
That'll do, he says, nodding slowly. I can keep it stowed away here for at least the morning.
Like all my friends, the one I send is very discreet. I will tell him to use my name, however, so you know him.
Well, Dock Inspector comes by right at dusk. At least that's what I'm expecting him. So whoever this is needs to get out of here before then.
I'm sure it won't be an issue. Meanwhile, those barrels.
Right. And he turns and moves towards the back of the warehouse and down one of these aisles of what you see are lots of crates stacked up. And he takes one out and starts rolling it. And he rolls it around back to you. Eventually he turns it so it's sitting up and pops the top off. Got this in just the other night, actually. You're in luck.
So it would seem.
And he closes the lid once again. There's one more barrel back there I'll get for you.
Most kind. I'll prepare your money.
He nods, and before long you have both barrels sitting there in front of you, ready to go.
Alright, he'll give him the £3. It hurts, but he's expecting Tito's going to pay him back.
All
Of
right.
course.
He thanks you and stows the coins, and seeing that he no longer has work to do this night, you see him basically take the ensconce torches and leave. So you are there with your 2 barrels of Seed of the Poppy.
How heavy are they is the question, being that Simon is incredibly weak.
They're fairly heavy, especially since they're full.
Blasted.
He'll curse to himself.
You'd think you could roll them, it would just take a while.
Say,
Is he gone, though?
He was on his way out, but you could stop him if you wanted to.
I don't suppose you have a small cart I could use for the night, do you? I would leave you some collateral.
Oh, sure. Behind the warehouse, let me go grab it. And he disappears, only to reappear a few minutes later with a small cart.
Alright, and Simon will pass him another £1 and a few pence.
Cheers.
I'll have my man return the cart tomorrow morning.
He nods as he continues to make his way down the docks and off into the night.
Alright, that done, he'll load it into the small handcart.
Alright, you've got your 2 barrels and your handcart.
And he'll make his way off to find Tito.
Okay. We will change scenes again as we go and find Tito Vega. We return to Tito Vega, who I believe is still in the Blackfriar Priory, is that correct?
Yes, Tito's still in Blackfriars Priory. He was last seeking out.
It's not long before you make it to the chambers that you know are hers, and of course at this point no longer requires a guard. She stays there voluntarily at this point, despite the ups and downs she seems to have. And you are outside her door, which is closed currently. The same door that you found her before and drew her brother out of.
Good evening, Camille.
Camille is sitting on her bed, her knees pulled up. She's pulled up in something of a almost like a fetal position, just sitting up, and she alerts herself to your attention and pulls herself up, standing up. Tito, good evening. What do you wish of me?
Wish to know how you fare. I've heard you've been crying these past nights.
Well, yes, I miss my brother. I apologize if it has disturbed others.
Yes, I understand the process.
And it was necessary? It had to be done? She says, looking at you, her eyes full of uncertainty, and you can see the mixture of emotion in there.
Yes, for you know, he was sick with the plague, for which there is no cure.
Of course, you wouldn't do anything unnecessary. I know that. She looks like she wants to say more, but she closes her mouth.
You have something on your mind. Speak.
It is just that my life has changed so drastically in the last week. But I am grateful for your presence in it, and all that you have done. Almost all that you have done.
I do wish there was more that could be done for your brother.
Was he at least at peace? Was there a less painful way to end it? Surely he was not simply burned alive. She says, tears forming in her eyes.
Tito will take a moment and look deep in her eyes. He recalls that she was present for it. Forced to sit and watch as her brother burned. Tito will seek to reach deep into her mind. Make it as if she was never able to witness this event.
Alright, roll wit subterfuge, difficulty of 5. Number of successes will change how much you can alter of her memory.
What was the difficulty again?
5. Luckily it's not a botch, but you're not able to change anything as you look into her mind. It's muddled and full of rage and grief and love, and it's a swirling storm of emotions that she's well concealing beneath the surface, but it's difficult to grasp at any one thought as you search through her memories. It's just so chaotic. You can try again at a higher difficulty, or try something else. But real quick, walk us through Tito's mindset. Why does he want to do this?
One of the reasons Tito is seeking to do this is to test the powers of the blood. And it would hopefully lessen his mistress's ire.
Alright, do you mean to continue trying, or are you letting her sit with this for now?
We'll try one more time.
Alright, you can try again at a difficulty of 6. You're able to pacify her, but it's not enough to recreate anything. You feel this is a very ingrained memory. It's burned into her mind, what happened to her brother, and you're not able to really change anything substantial about that memory, at least not right now.
Having been able to feel at least making some impact, Tito will try and analyze to feel what the difference is between a mind that has been changed in such a manner.
Alright, what does he mean to do next?
It says it can be used to tell if the target's memories have been altered. We'll try to do that. Or, well, I guess you said if he felt it, he felt something change in her. He wants to try and look again as if from the outside and see if he can figure out what is different in her mind.
So you're rolling again, or you're trying to understand what you felt?
Yeah, I guess from the rules, it would be another roll. Not for the same effect though. It's just to see if, just to get a. Well, he's basically trying this ability for the first time. He's trying to get a sense of.
Get a baseline for an unchanged mind.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I would say that in your last two attempts, you got that impression. You know what it feels like to work through, albeit a very emotional mind. You felt it was very raw. You felt like everything made sense in what you were seeing and experiencing through Camille. Nothing felt contrived or altered. So you got a good feeling for what that feels like when you're looking into someone's eyes and you have those memories in front of you.
And with this, Tito will simply respond to her question as if nothing happened. Yes.
Roll manipulation subterfuge. I'll give you a difficulty of 6. She's ready to believe anything you'll say if it'll make her feel better. And she trusts you a great deal because of the blood oath. Oh, actually, I said difficulty 4, not 6, so that's actually 4 successes. She smiles.
Okay.
What's that?
I got it.
Yeah, 4 successes. She smiles brightly at your words. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear at least that much. At least he did not have to suffer. Thank you. And she nods and actually starts to come closer to you.
Tito will place a hand on her shoulder and tell her to put her mind at ease.
She puts her hand on top of yours and smiles. Of course. I will try. And out of character, Simon, were you meaning to bring these barrels straight to Tito at the Priory?
Yes, he is.
Okay. I would say it's around this time, Tito, that you hear footsteps behind you and a voice call from behind you. My lord, a visitor has arrived with barrels. Were you expecting someone?
Yes, I was. Thank you for informing me.
He nods and turns to leave. Oh, must you leave, then, my lord? She looks at you despondently.
Yes, I must. I'm afraid I have business to attend to.
May I assist you? she says, coming closer.
That you may. I'm seeking, I'm seeking a new convert. I'm always seeking converts, but at this particular moment I am seeking one young. Perhaps you have any friends?
Well, yes, I've several friends I see after Mass on Sundays.
You should invite one to come with you.
Of course, I will do that the very next time I see them. She nods again.
Excellent. I am pleased with this.
She smiles and looks content.
Now, my dear Camille, I must bid you a good evening.
Very well. And you see that she hasn't taken any steps back. She's still very close to you.
Tito will gently take his other hand to remove the hand that she has placed on his and depart.
She looks mildly despondent as you leave, but she returns to sitting. And this we will switch scenes as you go out to meet Simon. Alright, just outside, we turn to Simple Simon as he's moving these two barrels up to the entrance near the Blackfriar Priory. And Tito, you are just exiting when you see him standing there ready. The two of you see each other.
Simon, it is wonderful to see you.
Yeah, save it. You owe me £3.
Very well. This price is well worth it, I'm sure.
What exactly are you intending to do with this again?
Simple. Frame the sewer worker, Steve Adams, I believe his name was.
A stupid name to go with a stupid face.
And quite the poor profession as well, I must assume.
Ah, well, we can't judge a man based on his profession. All of us have needs that need meeting.
Yes, well, perhaps you'd be willing to plant this inside his residence. I'm sure his profession pays for.
Do you know where he lives?
Out of character, Tito's certain Marco would have told him.
He told you he has a home in Bishopsgate.
That's it? Nothing more detailed?
I think he gave you the address, I just didn't actually give you a fake address.
Alright. Yes, of course. He has a home in Bishopsgate. It's right around this area.
Well then. What will you be doing while I'm doing all your dirty work?
There's another step to the plan. Full framing. I must get the attention of the city guards.
That shouldn't be difficult.
Hopefully, it will not be. After we've completed our task, let's say we meet somewhere close outside of Marco's residence.
Very well then. We best get a move on. London is not a small city, and we have much to traverse.
Indeed. Let us be off.
All right. The two of you are heading off into the streets of London, and Simon, you're bringing your cart of barrels.
Yes.
Okay. We will pause here, and it's 7:50. Why don't we go ahead and take a break right around now, since we're right around that time. We'll come back in 10 minutes and get back into it. Alright, since we're all back, I'm going to get us back into it. Alright, so we return on this same night, following Simon and Tito throughout the night as they go about setting up this frame job. And I think we'll do this mostly as an overview for time's sake, because we could spend a lot of time on the details of this. So Tito, you mean to do what exactly at this point?
Tito's going to look for a leper that fits the description.
Alright. We'll have you do a perception, and we'll just do a perception alertness and keep it simple. And the difficulty will be 7. It's not difficult to find where the lepers are hiding out at. But you're having no luck finding any tonight. Probably due to how late it is. None are really out and about. You kind of have to poke in a little bit. And you're not immediately finding any good potential lepers with homes you think might suit yet. But that won't be your only chance. You still have the rest of the night. So we'll turn to Simon briefly. And Simon, you said you're going to take these barrels of seed of the poppy and plant them in this man's house?
Yes.
Okay. Have you do a dexterity stealth roll. The difficulty will also be 7. I'm thinking if someone botches, we'll probably go in scene. Alright, you're more than capable of sneaking in, even with these barrels, and planting a bit of this opium, these poppy seeds, here and there all around the home of this man, this sanitation worker. And you're in and out in the middle of the night. As he sleeps, you see him as he's sleeping, and he makes no movement as you go about his home.
Simon almost feels sorry for him, but he lets that pass.
Alright. Does Simon need to do anything in particular with his task completed?
One more thing. He's going to go see Henry Cladden, his fence friend,
Alright.
and make sure that he can arrange for him to do the pickup tomorrow. Even if he has to wake him.
I don't think a roll is needed for that. He's one of your contacts, and annoyed as he is at being woken up, he's willing to do this job for you, at least this time.
Simon promises him that there will be lucrative opportunities in the future.
As soon as he's agreed and you've assured him of this, he returns to his home inside and goes back to sleep. So you seem to have that set up, at least.
And that's all he had intended for tonight. He'll probably return to Quinn's place to make use of that cellar.
Did Tito say he wanted to meet Simon outside of Marco's Manor tonight or tomorrow night?
Tonight.
Oh, oops. Okay, then Marco's Manor it is.
Okay, I'm just double checking. We'll go back to Tito. This first hour is unsuccessful, but you haven't made any major missteps in trying to find a good target. So you can try again. Same difficulty. This time you manage to find someone you think will work. You find one of these lepers in a very impoverished part of town. It's not in the plague neighborhoods, but it's certainly a slum. You're certainly in the rack part of town. And the leper you found is asleep at this point in the night, as it's getting on to be maybe 1 in the morning now. So you think you have someone you can set this up for. They fit the description so far as you were told, and you have enough easy entrance to get in and out that this would work.
Making a mental note of this. Next step of the plan is to find some people on the street that will do.
People you mean to do what with?
To mercilessly slaughter and leave their body parts all over this leopard's dwellings.
Alright, how is he planning on getting these people rounded up?
How is he planning on getting them? He's just going to dominate.
Okay, find people on the street and...
Yeah, dominate them, to follow him.
Okay. How many people is he trying to get?
Tito will make a investigation roll to see what would be realistic in his mind.
Okay. Give you what you want an investigation roll to figure out how to round them up, or what are you doing?
No. Like, what would be a good amount to frame this guy as like a
Oh, I see.
vicious killer?
Sure, you can make an intelligence investigation roll, standard difficulty. You're not sure. 1 seems as good as 10 to you.
Then we'll go with something between that. Let's get like 4 people. Why not?
Alright, 4 people it is. So Tito, you set out to find 4 people you're going to butcher and murder, but before I set you up for failure, how are you planning on getting these mutilated bodies into the house? Or describe to me his plan there. Is he leading them into the house and then murdering them? Or is he murdering them and then bringing sacks of meat into the house? Is he doing this in the alleyway?
He's going to do this all on scene. But he will look for 4 individuals.
You said he's doing this all on scene?
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna bring all these people into this leper's house and then murder them all?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm sure the leper's house is not that big, so outside it.
Right, it's not a very big house. And I should say this isn't exactly, a hovel at the end of an alleyway. There are other houses. It's a street where people occasionally walk up and down, guards patrol. There will be other people outside this house. At least some of the time.
That may make it easier. Is there anyone around right now?
City guards patrolling by.
How many?
Just 1.
Then he'll be a start actually to get all this going down. If there's truly no one, Tito will do a search and see if there's anyone else around.
Sure. Perception, alertness, standard difficulty again. Yeah, you're not sure. You can't tell based on the angles of the street. You think there might be someone coming down the street pretty soon, but you can't say for sure. Right now, it looks like he's alone. So what does he do?
He'll try to run up to the guard, yelling there's a killer down the alley. As soon as he locks eye contact with him, he'll command him to follow.
It's a simple enough task to get one of the kind to follow your commands using your gifts. And before long, you've got this guard following you wherever you go.
Has his yelling got the attention of anyone else? Tito will look around again.
Not right now. It seems that it's pretty late at night. This is kind of a slum, but no one's really passing by at the moment.
You said there's many other hovels around?
It's something like a neighborhood of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like tenement buildings. It's pretty stuffed. So you have to think that maybe someone in one of the buildings heard, but no one's poking their head out or anything.
Okay. Okay. It's good work for it, Tito. Tito will, Is there a larger, hovel that could fit? Actually, no. Tito will take the guard into a nearby hovel to the lepers, and look and see if there's anyone inside.
So you're just kind of like opening the door to the next home in and seeing who's in there?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, just make a dex stealth roll for me, standard difficulty, as you kind of poke your head in around other people's homes.
Perfect. Tito will... Nah, he won't. Okay.
Now you're doing really terribly tonight. You start to crack the door open to this hovel when you hear some rustling, hear a voice. Oh, who's that?
Oh, then. Not wasting any time, Tito will... Yeah, with these rolls, I'm kind of afraid now. Tito will tell the guard, in here.
The guard follows you, and you see that you've woken up a young couple who's stirring in the darkness, trying to get their bearings. What's going on?
Such a shame for them. As the guard enters and Tito's feels safe that there's no onlookers from outside, he'll actually immerse this place in darkness.
You're gonna create a nocturne in here?
Mm-hmm.
Including the guard?
Including the guard.
Alright. Roll your manipulation occult, difficulty 7.
Come on, dice. Come on.
You succeed. A great cloud of blackness emerges and eventually quickly consumes the young couple and the guard, and their muffled cries become silent to you.
Tito relishes the darkness as it snuffs out the life before him.
Within a couple minutes, they will have died, asphyxiated.
Tito will keep concentration until their life is smothered.
It doesn't take long before all three of them collapse onto the floor in the darkness, each of them dead and lifeless on the ground.
Tito will begin satisfied with this amount of bodies. He will attempt to consume what little vitae he can from the remaining guards, and leaving just enough to make a bloody scene.
So you're consuming the vitae from the guard and then doing what?
He'll drag the bodies out and begin to make a bloody scene at the leper's hovel.
Okay, for a freshly dead corpse, I'll give you... that hasn't been bled at all. I'll give you... if you're immediately going for it, let's say 3 blood points per corpse.
Will that completely drain the corpse?
No, it's just what you get out of it. It's just that dead blood very quickly loses the life force that you sustain off of the blood.
Okay.
So
He'll drain those 3 points then.
Alright, you do so. And so you mean to drag these bodies into the next door hovel with this leper?
Yes.
Alright, I'll give you a dexterity stealth roll, difficulty 8, to get them in without being horribly obvious about it. Mind you, there's a sleeping man in this room.
Of course. Tito will shake the leper awake.
Before he's moved any bodies yet?
Yes, before he's moved the bodies in. He'll make sure to wake the leper and put him into a deeper sleep.
Okay. The man wakes and is clearly frightened. You can see the horrible disease that is consuming his face, even in this darkness. But with but a word, you're able to put him back to sleep. That's a simple enough task.
Satisfied with the leper in a deeper sleep, Tito will drag the corpses inside.
Alright. Like I said, once in a while someone does walk down this road, so I'll lower your difficulty to 7, but still dexterity stealth. Now you're just trying not to draw other people's attention.
Noted. Since Tito has abundance of blood, he'll buff a bit into dexterity.
That is wise. Alright, you pull it off. You get the guard and this dead young couple moved from one hovel, one door over into this other home. And you have this leper in a deep sleep, and they're all at your mercy now.
Tito will... Is the guard wearing any sort of armor?
Yeah, he's got a chainmail on. He's got a broadsword sheath at his side. Got a simple... what's it called? Bassinet helmet.
Okay. Tito will remove the guard's helmet, take his sword, and with the hilt, begin bashing in the back of the guard's head. And he'll start chopping limbs of the couple and the guard in this room, spending quite some time to paint a bloody picture.
I'm trying to think of what the role, if there even should be a role for that. I'm inclined to say no, because I don't think anything deals with that. But either way, you're given plenty of time to do this now that the leper is asleep, and you gut this young couple and you bash in the skull of this guard, tearing limbs apart and cutting them up into little pieces and sprinkling them around like decorations in this room. It makes a large pool of blood in the center and blood spattering across the wall. Go ahead and describe Tito as he commits this truly monstrous act.
Tito's beast is relishing in this, as he is just completely tearing these bodies apart. Tito himself is exhilarated in the success of all of this, and is quite pleased.
You can either roll your conscience at a difficulty of 8 for you, or you can take the humanity hit. Because this is a truly horrific and monstrous thing to do.
At this point, Tito will just take the hit.
Alright, describe Tito mentally as he is going about this, and what he looks like.
Tito's dark figure is in the room, just making wet sounds as he's hacking away. His face is completely silent. Completely still, but his hair is just standing at its ends as the beast is manifesting through him.
Indeed, by the end of it, you've covered not just this entire room in a new paint of blood, you've covered yourself in quite a bit of blood. Make a self-control roll, difficulty 6. You're sated, but your beast is near to the surface. You're more than capable of keeping yourself under control under these conditions. Even in spite of all the blood you're now covered in, your hands are just pure red in what little light there is here.
Tito is satisfied with his work. I'll take a moment to look it over, licking the red gore from his hands.
It's truly a scene out of a nightmare, and this leper has just slept through the entire thing. Blood is splattered across his face even as this happened, and he's still asleep. It's a gruesome and grisly scene to behold. There are bones and viscera spread across the entire room. What does Tito mean to do now?
Tito feels that this will satisfy the task required of him. He will make sure to take the guard's helmet with him as he departs this hovel.
Alright, the blood hasn't even dried on your face or clothes as you make your way out, holding this guard's helmet in hand. And you are out on the street.
Tito will look around, seeing if he notices anyone.
Make a perception alertness, roll difficulty 6. Now, you are not getting any of these rolls. Yeah, you don't immediately see anyone right now, but again, you think perhaps there are voices further down the street coming down. It's not obvious whether or not someone's going to be here soon or not.
Tito will. Since Tito hears something, he will slowly approach the exits. Before he departs, though, he will sneak into the couple's hovel.
Alright. There's no
And-
one home, so you're able to do that.
He'll rummage around for an extra pair of clothes.
That's easy enough to do. You're able to find a new tunic to replace your own and a new cloak as well. You've exchanged it with your bloody rags and your bloody black cloak.
Wrapping the helmet up in the bloody rags and cloak, and finding a appropriate way to conceal it, he will continue down the alley.
Alright, you make your way out and you start walking back down the alley. So far, you still don't see anyone. Your crime seems to have gone unnoticed for now.
And so it has. Tito is completely convinced no one has witnessed this. Or so he hopes. He will leave the scene and begin heading towards Marco's.
I'll give you an intelligence. Let's see here. Intelligence investigation roll, difficulty 6. 5 is pretty obvious. You do recall Marco mentioned having someone alert a constable to both the sanitation worker and the sighting of this, something as a connected event, as before you make your way over to Marco Vespucci's. That at least passes through your mind.
So a constable needs to be alerted to this. How does this tie in the sewer worker again?
The idea, as you were told it, was that the sewer worker was going to be discredited as having seen this monster, and you basically made the monster to be found, while at the same time making him look like he saw something else.
Okay. Tito will go to the next step of the plan then and look for a constable.
You're able to find one, walking down the street long enough, you're able to find one of the men patrolling. Looks like he's talking to one of the guards when you find him. He's holding a torch out, speaking sidelong.
Tito will stay in the darkness, but attempt to get his attention. Sir.
He turns to you.
I
Who
have
goes there?
something suspicious to report, sir.
Who is that? I can barely see you, man. He comes closer with a torch.
Tito will make no effort to come closer to him, but say, someone suspicious, sir, coming out of the sewer, down the alley,
He looks past you down the alley. Lots of people look suspicious around here. Especially at this hour. There's something wrong with your face. He says, kind of like leaning in a little bit closer.
Tito said, as this man's leaning in, was there anyone else around, by the way?
No, the guard he was speaking to went off on his way when the constable turned to talk to you.
Okay, perfect. Tito will say you should investigate this matter. Of course, using dominate.
Alright, roll your manipulation intimidation, difficulty 7. He's very suspicious and he is not prone to do this on his own for sure. Right away, I'll go look into it. He says, kind of moving even as he's speaking to you. He readily complies and starts going down the alley in the direction towards where you pointed.
I hope all is well. And Tito will leave.
Alright. You leave the scene as the constable heads in the direction of the very grisly scene you left behind. You think, as you're walking away, you perhaps hear a yell and a shout for help somewhere down the alley, but it is faint and grows fainter as you go farther away, as you disappear into the night. We will transition, as I believe the two of you were meeting outside of Marco Vespucci's manor, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, it is not long after that Tito, you see that outside of Marco Vespucci's manor, having walked for some time, it's getting quite late in the night, and Simon, you do have to wait there for almost an hour before Tito finally shows up. But you see that it seems that both of you have completed your task for the evening.
Tito
Si-
steps
No, go ahead.
forth, looking around for Simon.
Simon peels himself from the wall he had been leaning against.
You're late.
Tito just gives Simon a cold gaze.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing. I'll speak with Marco.
You're the one who knows him. By all means, lead on.
I will. As I go in, I trust you'll be able to find...
Tell me what I'm looking for again.
That's a good question, for I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps some documents from his office.
Herein lies the problem. You see, I can't read.
Very well. That is quite the problem indeed. But I'm sure you'll find something, won't you?
Anything that looks suspicious I will find.
Wonderful. That's all we'll need.
Simon nods and steps back into the shadows, vanishing from sight.
And Tito will step to the entrance of Marco's residence and once again knock on the door.
Alright, it's not long before the knock is answered, and you see this small little man who you heard was once called Svet answers the door, and you are again let in, but not very far, as you see that actually Marco Vespucci is not very far away. He's actually very near to the entrance as we transition the scenes. You see that as Svet is about to move and lead you further into the interior, Marco enters in from one of the nearby hallways. Ah, good evening, Mr. Vega. A pleasant one, I hope.
Yes, it is. Tito looks a little bit distracted, but he attempts to maintain pleasantries.
How went your abduction? Quite civilly, I take it, from your hasty return?
Everything went without a problem.
Good, good. He says, kind of leading you into this salon chamber that's kind of a receiving room. And you see that it's very well decorated. There are bookshelves lining the walls and a railing overhead as a walkway goes across from one room to the next. Large windows that pour moonlight in. It's very regal and spacious. Meanwhile, Simon, you need no roll for your obfuscate, but simply to move quietly as Svet kind of moves along and to not make any horrible mistakes. Go ahead and do a dexterity stealth roll, difficulty 5, since Marco Vespucci is very distracted right now. You're able to move quietly enough as you sneak in through the door before it closes, and you're on your way into the manor. And Marco Vespucci takes a seat nearby. Care for a drink this evening, Mr. Vega? For your success, I mean.
Why, yes, I would gladly accept.
He reaches over towards a nearby decanter where there are some nearby cups and pours a couple drinks for you, and you recognize that it does look like blood, as it has been in the past. And he hands you one of these cups.
Tito will take a sip.
So now that you have your man, what do you mean to do, Mr. Vega?
Fully interrogate him. But I must say, however did you manage to get the Duke simply let us take custody?
He smiles before taking a drink. I've known the Duke for some time. We've had amicable relations in the past, he says, taking a swig. Worry not your little head about those details.
Oh, just a curiosity. Why it went by so smooth, it was too easy in my experience.
He's silent for a few moments and slow to bring the goblet back down. Shouldn't be so distrusting, Mr. Vega. Sometimes a favor is just that.
A favor it was. I don't mean to be too overly suspicious.
What do you hope your interrogation will unveil for you?
I hope to find out who is in charge of the cleanse. Oddly, in the conversation, he mentioned one name, a Vatic. Does that sound familiar to you? It's Tito studies his reaction carefully.
He pauses before taking another drink, looking down. Vodek. Can't say the name rings a bell, Mr. Vega.
Truly, I was led to believe he was of your clan.
Roll your perception empathy.
Difficulty?
Standard. You re-roll some 10s. It's not extremely clear to you whether or not he's telling the full truth. You can't pierce his... You can't pierce his expression one way or the other. Well, I have to say, Mr. Vega, I know most in my clan, but Vodek is one name that escapes me. How did you come to know that he was of the Ventru?
It came out in a conversation. I intend to fully interrogate Juan Felipe further, but this precious little information is what I've gained.
I see. And who do you suspect this Vodek is? How does he play in?
What I suspect is he is an ancient vampire. What he has to gain, I know not. Other than just causing trouble with the cleanse.
So this Juan Felipe, this is the man you first heard this name from, Vodek? And he studies you at that point, pausing in his drink.
First? No. I don't believe he was the first.
He seems to wait, staring at you almost uncomfortably, as if waiting for elaboration.
I believe I have heard of him. Was he not? The sire of the prince, Adam, that is.
Truly, I do not believe our departed Prince Adam had a known sire. I believe that was a well-kept secret, at least so far as I know. And out of character, that is not something that ever came up between anyone else you've heard of talking about. It's not common knowledge that you're aware of.
Oh yeah, figured. As a well-kept secret indeed, as finding information about this man has been quite elusive.
So again, I am quite curious for such a ancient cainite. Who first alerted you to this name?
First, why, it was mentioned to me at the place where I first survived being inside an immolated building.
Oh, do tell. You've noticed he's had this goblet of blood held up for some time, but he's not taking any more drinks.
Do tell. There's precious little to tell. Perhaps the Malkavians know of more than they let on. All I have is a name and a vague lineage.
You're being quite vague about who gave you this information, Mr. Vega. That interests me. He finally takes a drink.
One older than I'm quite certain, who would be privy to this information. As for who, I'm not entirely certain.
His eyes narrow at you. So you have no name of this stranger who alerted you to this ancient cainite.
I was given a moniker of sorts. I must look into this individual myself. He could be connected to the plague as well.
Your elusiveness continues to interest and perplex me, Mr. Vega. Am I not your friend? Have I not been so very helpful up until now? I simply wish to know who was it that alerted you to this interesting ancient you describe.
Oh, but of course, it slipped my mind. It was Leviticus, he said.
Make another perception empathy roll, difficulty 6. You're not sure if his expression changed or not upon hearing that word, but he does stop in his drink. Leviticus. What an interesting name, he says, finally taking another drink.
Yes, he seemed to be quite the shady fellow.
So you've described him. Well then. Certainly does make for interesting evenings here in London, I imagine.
Interesting. I see it as dangerous.
So as I said before, Mr. Vega, you must look for the opportunity that presents itself in times of what otherwise may seem like despair. Speaking of, how goes my assignment for you?
Is failed completion.
Completion so soon?
I work quick.
He raises the glass to you. Well done, my young friend. This will aid me considerably. Have you spoken to Simon yet?
I've spoken with him, but he was busy this night.
Make a manipulation subterfuge roll, standard difficulty.
Not entirely a lie, but okay.
Mincing words. Ah, pity. He says, putting the glass down. It seems that it's empty. Or mug, I should say. Goblet? I've changed words 3 times. He sets it down. Another night, perhaps.
Surely.
I suspect I may be able to use him in my goals to elevate myself.
How has that been progressing?
Quite well, quite well. Thanks in great part to your notification. I've been able to make a few inroads. My dear sister Genevieve has been speaking with the elder prior, Tristan. I suspect she has deals of her own, but cannot say what they may be.
I certainly must say I've not been impressed with her treatments during our imprisonment.
No, I suspect that she is a bit lacking in bedside manner, perhaps. No, she should not represent the Ventrue. With Simon's aid, I feel confident I can secure my position as Primogen. And then perhaps the two of you will have a powerful ally in me.
Wonderful. I look forward to that. Powerful
Yes.
allies are required these nights.
They certainly are. Was there anything else on your mind this evening, Mr. Vega?
There was, though. Just a suspicion.
What is that?
Back to the Duke. He seemed odd to me for some reason.
Finishing his drink, he reclines back and seems to stretch his arms out a bit. Odd, how so?
I can't quite place it. It seemed like he was... not who I expected him to be like.
Have you met many dukes, Mr. Vega?
precious few.
He smiles wryly at that. So how can you be sure? Perhaps they all have their own eccentricities.
Aye. Eccentric was the word for it. Well, it is a small matter.
Indeed. I would pay it no mind. You are most likely done with the man, in any case.
I don't know, his ties to the bishop seemed quite close. As if he had him cowed.
Well, you should know by now that the corruption of the church is, well, something of a widespread issue. Even we cainites cannot claim monopoly on the puppet strings of the clergy.
Quite right.
He seems content to fall silent for now.
Tito will continue sipping his drink.
Alright. We will switch scenes as we follow Simon as he is snooping around. Alright, Simon. We catch up with you as you see Marco Vespucci and Tito Vega disappear down a hall. Looks like they're heading into some kind of parlor to sit down as you begin making your way into the manor. Is there anything in particular you're looking for? Because you initially see that there's hallways that go down this first floor. There is also a staircase that goes up to an upper floor.
Simon's looking for anything that could be incriminating. He's not exactly sure what kind of evidence Tito needs, but...
Alright, be one moment. Make a perception investigation roll. Difficulty... we'll say standard. The number of successes will determine how much you pull up. So that's 5 successes. That's a huge success. You're able to uncover a trove of information about this manor in a small amount of time. You find a number of interesting things that catch your attention, or at least you mark off on a list. There is, of course, a larder and buttery filled with wine and food for entertaining guests that you are safe to assume is otherwise not touched. That's not very out of the ordinary, but when you make it upstairs and start moving amongst the bed chambers, you find that none of the beds themselves are touched, which isn't by itself that suspicious. But when you make it to the master chamber, when you find what you have to assume is his, this bed chamber looks untouched to a significant extent. There is actually dust formed in light sheets across the bed. This has clearly not been used in years, and it looks very much like no one makes use of any of these rooms. None of the bedrooms you found in this entire manor look used. You find, while you are searching the office, of course you can't read, but you've seen ledgers enough time, you've seen bookkeepers like hunched over them, that you know what a ledger looks like. And this ledger looks very large. It likely has the accounts for many different payments. You can't exactly make out to whom or when, but it goes back quite a ways, you estimate. You also find several letters. It looks like 2 of them sealed, and one unsealed. They seem like unsent letters. Unfortunately, you can't read any of them, so you're not sure what any of them say. Does Simon do anything in these rooms as when he discovers these items, despite not knowing exactly what's on them?
Yes, he takes them.
Alright, you take the letters?
The letters. He's going to leave the ledger, but he will bring it to Tito's attention and maybe sneak back in to look at it later, or take it for a while.
To later take the ledger?
He's just leaving it for now. If he has to come back later, he will.
Okay. You scoop up the letters easily enough. And the ledger sits there, actually opened right now. The last thing you find of interest, and by this point you've canvassed really all the rooms in this manner that you can without actually going to the room that Marco and Tito are in. You find one set of staircases that descends into the ground. It goes down into what might be a basement, but the basement is locked.
He curses himself for not bringing a set of lockpicks.
Would you say Simon usually does carry lockpicks on him?
Everything was taken for him when he was arrested. But yes, he would have some. Is there anything around that I can use, sort of jury-rigged? A letter opener, perhaps, in one of the upstairs offices or something?
There would be a letter opener, definitely, in the upstairs office. It looks very fine. It has like a nice gold trim on it. It would certainly be missed if it was gone for long.
He'll pass on that for now and look for anything else that might do.
There's a long, thin dagger that's kind of sitting at the edge of the table, this ledger table. You think perhaps that might work?
He'll take that. It's going to be rough. Picking locks with a dagger is very difficult, but he's got a little choice right now.
All right. As you return to the locked basement, you may try and pick the lock with a dexterity. What was it? Oh, there's no larceny, is there? Legerdemain then? Yeah, Legerdemain. Dexterity Legerdemain. You'll have to have an increased difficulty making use of a dagger. It's difficulty 8. Oh wow, reroll at 10. So 2 successes, you're actually able to do it. It takes you, maybe a minute or 2, but you're able to do it, and keep the dagger. You even keep the dagger from being that jacked up afterwards. So you're able to undo the bolts to this lock, and you hear the release mechanism, and the door starts to give.
All right, I'm going to use the silence of death now, so in case it squeaks, no one's going to hear it.
So you're able to silence this as you creak the door open, and you see that a nearly completely dark pathway descends further.
Before he does this, he's not stupid enough to think that Tito can keep Marco occupied that long. He's going to sneak back towards that room and see if they're still talking.
Sure. You see that it does look like they're talking. It looks like at this point Marco has finished his drink. You see him set it down quite loosely and recline back. But they are still talking.
And he'll hurry back and hopefully get something before he has to make a hasty retreat.
All right. Moving quickly, you descend the staircase into this basement. and you see inside, as it levels out, a large chamber that seems to have been opened up. And there are a few candles that are lit right now that provide a scarce amount of light. And you can tell as soon as you step down the bottom that this is solid stone floor. There's actually tiles, but a few steps in you realize you're walking on dirt, not stone. It seems that a thin film of dirt has been layered across all of this stone, across this fairly large chamber. And as you're making your way through, you see many odd-looking vegetation or fungi that seems to be growing. It looks like some kind of very strange garden is being grown down here, mostly in the dark.
What have you been doing down here?
All right. How big is the chamber? Are there any exits besides the one I came through?
There is one exit besides the one you came in. There is another wooden doorway, and it looks like it's also locked, just based on the appearance.
Blast it.
So I'll look around this room, see if there's anything of interest.
Besides the arranged garden of mostly fungi and some kind of bushes or leaves that seem to grow without need of much light, you only find really one other thing that looks odd. Is at one end of this chamber filled with dirt, it seems like there's a bit of a, I should say, a descent, a divot where the floor dips down, and there's more dirt, and it looks disturbed. Not like there's anything in it, just that it's been moved around a lot.
I'll go investigate that a little bit closer.
Sure, make a perception investigation roll, standard difficulty. You see upon closer investigation, it was hard to make out in the faint light, but there's different dirt here. It's actually reddish, it has an odd hue to it, and it's about the size of what you might consider a grave, as if someone could lay down here. And looks like someone perhaps did.
So this is where you've been sleeping. A little rough for a ventral, I should think. What are you hiding over here?
And he'll go over to that door he thinks is locked. There was nothing in this grave, right?
No, it just looked like disturbed dirt of different quality than the rest of the dirt.
He will file that away under odd occurrences.
At your press, you do find, in fact, that this door is locked as well.
A lot of secrets, Marco Vespucci.
He will attempt to use this dagger again, but he has a feeling it's not going to work.
Alright, same roll. Dexterity, legerdemain, difficulty 8.
Nope.
That is a botch. You break the dagger off, and the metal gets stuck in the lock. You're holding the hilt.
Damn it.
He'll try to wriggle the piece of metal free.
I would say you're able to do that. I'm not going to make you roll for that.
Alright. Well, this ends his investigation for now. He's already left enough evidence that he's sure going to put Marco on edge. He's going to retreat the way he came, kind of sweeping up his footprints a bit.
Alright, you're able to take a little bit of extra time to cover your footprints, and you're convinced that it doesn't look that obvious that anyone passed through this garden or through the dirt at the end. And you're able to ascend back upstairs.
He's done enough burglary to know to leave everything just the way he found it, so he will close that door.
Alright, you're able to, and you find just in time as you noticed, as you're making your way up the basement, you see that Svet, this small man, is heading back down this hallway in the direction of the basement.
Is the hallway wide enough that he can get by me without detecting me?
Yes, it is.
Alright, I will try to slip by him then.
As you do, you hear the jingle of a key as he keeps walking past you.
Although Simon does wonder if he's going to try to open that interior door. He struggles with himself for a moment, but realizes his time is running out, and he makes his way back towards the entrance.
Alright. The small man disappears somewhere down, going in the direction of the basement as you make your way back to the entrance. And you're just making your way out?
Yes, and he'll meet Tito outside.
Alright.
He's going to keep the dagger, of course, since it's broken anyway.
Alright. We'll turn back to Mr. Vega as he is still speaking to Marco Vespucci. Was there anything else I could do for you this evening, Mr. Vega? I do enjoy our conversations, but there is a bit of business I must attend to still.
No, I believe that is all.
He rises.
Thank you for keeping me company this night.
He rises from his seat and nods with a large smile across his wide face. Come, let me show you to the door.
And Tito gladly accepts. As best he can. The beast clearly affecting his features.
He again puts a large hand on the opposite shoulder as he walks beside you, as he guides you to the entrance, the area in front of the staircase again. Well, as always, Mr. Vega, it was a pleasure.
Indeed. I look forward to seeing you these coming nights.
I as well, Mr. Vega, I as well, he says, nodding a few times. Do take care now.
Tito gives a polite nod as he steps off the premise of Marco.
Alright. And you're able to make your way out. And Simon, you see that soon enough, Tito is making his way outside, and he becomes visible to you.
Simon will wait till he's a little more down the way before making himself known.
And Tito continues walking,
Simon will
not
quickly
wanting
follow.
to.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Tito continues walking, wanting to get much distance from Marco's residence.
All I was going to say is that Simon quickly falls in step, and once they're out of eyesight of the manor, he'll appear.
Simon, how goes it?
Oh, he's a rare treat, this one.
Oh, what have you discovered?
First of all, I discovered that I need to learn how to read. Perhaps that's something you or Quinn could correct. But in the meanwhile,
He'll sweep the letters out of his cloak and hand them over.
I found these. They looked suspicious. There was a letter also, but I didn't want to take it.
You've taken his letters.
I can return them if the need arises. First of all, tell me what these say, and then I'll tell you more.
Sure. Tito will pore over these letters quickly.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was muted. As you look, you see that there are 3 letters. 2 of them are closed and sealed, complete with his insignia. One is open and unsent. Let's see here. The unsealed letter, as soon as you open it, you recognize the letters, but you do not recognize the syntax. It looks written in a cipher of some kind.
Similar to Ford's?
No. Same idea, though.
Okay. It's written in English, is that right?
It's actually written in Greek letters, but you would recognize them.
Okay. Well, it is very good, even if I taught you to read this letter. It is coded.
What does that mean?
That means it's written in a way to confuse someone who does not know how to discern its true meaning. I will have to pore over this. Perhaps I can figure out, but I'd rather not raise suspicion.
Well then, let me tell you what else I found.
And he will relay to Tito all the information he found about the beds upstairs being untouched, most especially the bedroom that should have been Marco's. That there was a full larder with food, probably for entertaining guests, but even so. That downstairs, beyond a locked door, was a shallow grave he's pretty sure he's been using to sleep in. And another locked door that he couldn't get through.
That is a very odd sleeping quarters.
For one of his status, I would say.
Very.
Even Tristan doesn't sleep in anything so shabby.
This is becoming troublesome.
Did you convey to him the garden of fungi you found?
It might slip Simon's mind. Can I make a roll to remember it?
Yes, you may. Make an intelligence alertness roll.
Because he's not all that bright. Okay. Difficulty?
Say 7. You do remember at the last moment that did seem odd.
Oh, wait, one more thing. He has some sort of garden of fungus down below, in his sleeping chamber.
Fungus?
Yes. Mushrooms and other such things. Not the accoutrement of a lettered ventru. But critters I am familiar with. The plants, I mean, not the ventru.
Do you know why this would be?
He shrugs. He hadn't thought of that.
Tito searches his mind. Is there any vampire lore, perhaps something that hoards fungus?
I'll clarify that he saw fungus and mushrooms, but he also saw little bushes and small flowers like that just seemed odd to be growing down there, that I'm sure Simon would have relayed. As far as what Tito might divine from that, I'll give you an intelligence enigmas, difficulty 8. Still, 2 successes. You think that upon hearing of this subterranean garden, that whatever is being grown down there wouldn't necessarily it wouldn't be vampiric lore particularly per se, but it would be very specific in its purpose. You're not a horticulturist, but you know that it requires special care and a very unique kind of plants to do something like that. It's very intentional and purposeful.
Perhaps we should get an expert to tell us more of these plants. Perhaps they have some meaning behind them. Well, you've uncovered quite a bit.
You picked the right man for the job, I should say. I have a lot of experience skulking around other people's business.
Indeed, I have. I believe we do need to return this letter. Otherwise, suspicions would grow considerably.
Can you make an excuse for why you returned?
Excuse.
I don't want to have to break a window.
Tito thinks for a moment. I'm afraid I've exhausted much of an excuse I could, stalling for time. But, I'm sure I could at least get the attention of the doorkeeper.
I suppose if you can do that, I can do the rest.
Very well.
You could
Let's
ask him
attempt.
if you forgot your cloak. You weren't wearing one, but it could take you a moment to remember.
Ah. But, actually, no, you raise a fine point. I do have a cloak on my person, one I recently acquired. And Tito will make sure to take the cloak from his newly acquired tunic and remove it.
Alright. You're cloakless.
And Tito will walk back to Marco's residence.
Alright.
Knocking on the door.
It takes a few minutes of waiting before finally your knocking is answered, and again the small man answers. Yes, weren't you just leaving?
I was. Apparently I've forgotten my cloak in here.
Ah, yes, sir, of course. And he opens the door again.
Hoping that Simon can work quickly, Tito will walk down the hallway, as if looking for where he could have misplaced it.
Alright. As you do that, you make a manipulation performance roll, difficulty 6, while Simon makes a dexterity stealth roll to replace the letters, going back in and placing them back on the desk.
Oof.
If you don't have performance, it's 1 higher difficulty.
Aye, he does not.
Alright, 7 then. Get some acting lessons.
He needs them. Tito will spend a willpower on this.
Okay. Well, Tito, you get 2 successes on your pretending to be looking for a cloak that isn't there. Go ahead and describe Tito as he's kind of looking up and down around for something that isn't there.
Tito's walking down the hallway, just looking utterly confused as he's searching for the cloak, looking all around. I could have swore I placed it somewhere here.
The small man seems to be looking up and down as well. He seems to be buying this entirely. Meanwhile, Simon, you are making your way upstairs when you turn a corner and you just tap a bust of metal armor. It's decorative, and it makes a bit of a clatter. It's not huge, but it's enough to stop the doorman, the small man, who stops and turns on his heel. Did you hear something? I think there was something back there.
Perhaps a rat?
I better go look and just make sure. Mr. Marco Vespucci will be most displeased if I let in some ne'er-do-well. And he starts walking away from you.
Oh, very well. I'll look for my cloak over here.
And the small man disappears from you, Tito. Looks like he's going upstairs. Simon, we turn to you as you are recovering.
Alright, this armor was already upstairs?
Yeah, you're upstairs, you're turning a corner, going down one of these hallways, and you bump this metal armor suit that's kind of decorative and standing to the side. You didn't quite see in time.
He curses his foolishness and ducks into one of the side rooms, staying absolutely still.
The small doorman walks past you, looking around and eyeing the set of armor. After a few moments, he continues on towards the office that you were going towards.
Simon will follow him, ducking from room to room, or into the doorways if the doors are closed.
You follow him, and you see him enter the office, kind of looking around. It looks like he's investigating as you follow him. And then you hear a voice from behind you as you're watching. Svet, what are you doing here? Oh, I was looking for something causing a noise. I thought I heard something in here. I see you've taken my letters. Delivered them already, have you? And you see the small man look to the desk, and he blinks a few times. Yes. Yes, I did. Good, good. I don't remember sealing one of them. And he eyes the small man suspiciously. I'm certain you did, my lord. Marco watches him a few moments longer before turning to leave. And you see that the small man Svet looks absolutely panicked. He seems to have lost the color in his face. And he seems to wait for Marco to leave before he himself leaves the office. And it seems like you are alone in the office, at least for now.
Simon is dumbfounded as to why this little servant would lie to his master. But all the same, this is good for him. He will actually keep the letters and try to get out of the house as soon as possible.
Alright, we turn back to Tito as he's downstairs looking for a cloak that isn't there. You see that both Marco and Sveta...
While they were gone, Tito's going to... we didn't clarify where he was actually hiding the cloak, but Tito will have gone and retrieved the cloak by now.
Oh, like he was hiding it in his tunic or something?
Yeah.
Okay. That's hard to do, but I'll give it to you for simplicity's sake. So you come out wearing a cloak that you somehow hid, and you see that Marco and Sveta are walking down the dual staircase that leads back to the entrance. Mr. Vega, I didn't expect to see you again so soon.
In my foolishness, I had forgotten my cloak.
Yes, well, it seemed in my foolishness I forgot I had letters sent already, and had them sealed even. Well, then I'm glad to see you found your cloak. I bid you a good evening once more.
Oh, thank you. And Tito will head towards the exit.
Alright. And, Simon, you're in proximity enough to have been in this area. Does Simon follow him out?
Yeah, as he's getting out, he's going to slip out right behind him.
You're able to do just that at the last moment. And the two of you are back outside.
Tito, once again, will continue walking until he is out of sight of Marco's estate.
Alright.
Once again, Simon will appear.
You were able to return the letters, I trust?
No, he says. They were discovered missing already. Svet, little whatever he is, told Marco he had already mailed them.
Well, this could be a blessing. I will have time to pore over the letters at the least.
When Marco discovers that Svet is lying, there will be trouble.
Oh, that I am most certain of. Perhaps this lie could be perpetuated. If I can discover who is meant to be sent, these can find their way to who meant to receive them. For now, I'll take the letters and hope that luck blesses us.
Simon reaches into his cloak and produces the letters again.
I hope they're everything you're looking for.
As do I. You've done excellent work. I must commend you.
He'll actually grin at that. It's horrible.
Yes, well, I will keep in touch.
Yes, the night grows late.
Farewell, then. And Tito will take the letters from Simon, assuming he hands them over.
He does at that.
And return back to his haven.
All right, you're able to do that. And Simon returning to Quinn's estate?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will pause us here. And I'm going to ask really quick, how are you guys on time?
I mean, I don't have any issues.
I could go later, sure.
I'm fine.
Okay, I wanted to get Quinn some more time, just because I'm okay going into side stuff, but I just want to balance it out a little bit. Or at least get to the point that we get to figure out what's going on in the downtime. So
Sure.
okay, cool. So we'll press on to maybe like 10:30ish or so. We'll see how we're doing. Cool. So then we'll transition as we move on to the following night. Also, I'll ask, I think, Tito, you still had Mr. Juan Felipe in your haven. What do you do with him when you return?
First, he'll see if his mind has been altered in any way.
Okay.
At least through the use of dominate.
Alright, I'm going to put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that. Quinn, what are you doing the following night?
First thing I'm going to do is a thorough self-examination. See if, I can determine whether or not I'm changed at all. Another blood sample drawn. Same for the Kine, if he's, willing or not.
Alright. Trying to think. So basically over the next week, you're continuing this kind of like a regiment to study the Kine and see if you...
See if he or I are afflicted.
Okay. And Simon, you mean to do what over the next week?
His original plan was to find another haven, but that's not going to take the entire time.
Right.
He also wants to, if he can, get a start of learning how to read things. He's pretty embarrassed about what happened tonight.
Quinn would definitely facilitate that. I mean, there's only so much time you can spend taking blood samples and doing experiments with naturally occurring anticoagulants.
Okay. That makes sense. And then at some point throughout the week, you and Abel will meet Helen. Deciding if I want to do an overview of that now or wait till Jacob gets back.
I would definitely advocate waiting for Jacob to get back, just so you don't have to rehash anything for him.
Yeah, I think we might start with that thing next session. So we'll put a pin in that as well. Tristan would contact you, Simon, throughout this week, wishing to speak with you.
He will find time to, of course, speak to Tristan.
Okay. Just balancing things in my head right now.
Out of curiosity, what level of success did I find with the turmeric-treated horse blood?
your goal there was to basically find a natural way of stopping blood from clotting.
Right.
And the ultimate goal is that you can stop blood from like going bad so you can use it in transfusions later.
If only for transfusing cainites.
Okay, just making sure I got all that straight.
It might not work for humans, because phenotypes and whatnot, but
you find it's mildly effective. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing.
probably going to end up trying the same thing with various other naturally occurring anticoagulants. Garlic. Well, it'd be really awesome if I had some warfarin, but I don't think that exists yet.
Yeah, what I think I'll have you do is over
An
this
extended intelligence medicine roll?
Yes.
Okay.
To come up with a good concoction for a homemade anticoagulant, something that'll help this blood stay fresh. I wouldn't say Quinn knows what an anticoagulant is, but I would say he would know what is fresh blood and what's not.
Right.
So kind of like paring it down to that level. Intelligence, medicine, standard difficulty.
How many rolls would you like? One per day, or?
Yeah, we'll do one per day. Once you have 10 successes, then we'll say you've come up with an answer to this scientific inquiry. Simon, how are you going about looking for a haven?
That is a good question. He doesn't really... Well, first of all, he'll ask Tito and Quinn if they have any ideas.
Tito would say he does not know of any spots open.
Well, damn.
All right, in 2 nights, you've got it. You're extremely successful in figuring out what kind of concoction of these various herbs and turmeric and garlic. What's that?
The greatest chance of success.
Yes. What concentrations will work the best, and like I said, it's not perfect, but it's far better than likely anyone else has in keeping blood fresh right now.
Can I do the other 5 rolls and see if I can't increase the success rate? Totally your call.
I would say this is kind of the culmination of all of what you know might help. You've already gotten to the answer you were looking for.
Fair enough.
You just did it much earlier than you thought.
So I at least have an option for cainites. We'll figure out the kind thing later.
Yes. So it sounds like Simon's asking Quinn and Tito what options are for havens, and it sounds like Tito didn't think there was any.
Quinn would simply say, you can stay here as long as you'd like. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what exactly it is you're looking for, and sadly, I'm not sure I know the kinds of people who might be able to point you in that direction.
Disappointed but undeterred. He'll make a point to ask Tristan and Helen about it later.
All right.
Which means it might be delayed a bit, but that's fine, though. He's focusing on learning this reading stuff.
And who is helping Simon learn to read?
That would be Quinn.
And Quinn, as payment, he is willing to teach you if you want to know anything about animalism or obfuscation.
Debating that. Trying to think which of those would be more useful. At the moment, it seems like it might be animalism, but we'll come back to that.
All right. And okay, so you're putting a pin in the finding a haven business until talking to Tristan and Helen?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And Tito, the first thing you wanted to do was figure out if Juan Felipe's mind had been altered in any way.
Yes, if his memories have been altered through domination.
Alright, go ahead and make a wit subterfuge roll. Let me see his character sheet really quick. Difficulty of 6. You do find over this time that something is not quite right in his memory as you search it, especially compared to Camille. Something feels forced in some places. Some of these memories are moved around and don't feel quite so continuous as you know they felt in Camille's mind.
Great, he's been tainted.
And Quinn, I would say you were just examining the kind, right, to see what happens after a week?
Well, the kind and myself to see
And
if
yourself.
either of us show signs.
Okay. And you weren't doing anything else to the kind? Except for those?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. You find after a week that the kind does not show any symptoms. He doesn't seem to be coughing up anything. He has no black marks, as the common plague seems to bear. You find, however, that on the 7th night, you see black marks appearing in your skin.
Awesome. So, in the doctor's notes, how did he go about purging blood from the cainites? Was it like just drained, or was it burned off to heal, or what?
It was through a very medieval method, so to speak. Is very excruciating and crude. It's mostly just tearing of the body and emptying of the blood in what seems like the most efficient manners, so straight down the abdomen and across the larger veins under the armpits and across the femoral arteries. A lot of the larger areas that can bleed out faster, simply to get it coming out.
So, about that favor you owe me, Simon.
Simon nods.
I'll need as much animal blood as we can gather.
I can call animals to me easily. We just need to have a high enough concentration of them to make it worthwhile.
We'll need their blood. The wharfs should be rife with rats.
Rats don't have much blood to go around.
How many can you call at once?
He shrugs.
If there are enough to hear the call, then they might all answer. As an alternative, we could raid a stable or something.
We could.
Or venture out into the woods. How dangerous that would be. I've seen what lurks out there.
The alternative is kind. Bodies raise questions, though.
I'm afraid it's out of the question. We'll find the animals you seek somehow.
So Quinn's going to go about treating as many containers as he has on hand, with his anticoagulant composition.
You're treating your
Surely
containers with
they're-
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Simon will use his contact at the Port of London to see about any large shipments of animals coming in. It often takes them time to unload those, and he might be able to sneak in and create a bit of a mini plague.
Animals are often killed during shipping. It's an unfortunate fact of using large vessels to transport livestock.
Over this period of time, Simon, you get in contact with your man at the docks, and you do hear that it sounds like at the end of the week they are expecting a large shipment of sheep actually being moved, not across the Thames or not across the Channel, but farther along the coast from northern England. So that's coming down, and that should have a significant number of sheep.
He will inquire as to whether they'll be unloading immediately or there'll be an overnight. When they arrive, basically.
They're expected to arrive during the day. That's the only problem.
I can buy new draft horses.
Well, Simon will present the information he's got.
It would be difficult to delay them. It would create too much paperwork, I believe they call it.
Now, that delivery is supposed to arrive a week from now?
Basically, at the end of this downtime.
Okay.
Right as you're starting to show signs.
Okay. I'd rather not take the risk. It's so much easier to just buy 2 new horses. My coachman will be displeased. He did care for them a good deal, but he'll get over it.
Then it's settled.
They should have sufficient blood to run through 2, maybe 3 transfusions. The rest of this will get unpleasant for the both of us.
I live my life in unpleasantness. It's nothing new.
So we'll use the containers to bloodlet the horses, apparently.
You're doing that now?
Oh yeah.
Just trying to think, how long is anticoagulant treated blood going to stay fresh?
I mean, you said I wouldn't have noticed the signs until the end of that first week.
Yep.
So until I knew for sure that I was that I had, become symptomatic, I wouldn't necessarily go ahead and bleed the horses, because blood stays freshest when it's in a live body.
Oh no, I'm not worried about that. I'm thinking you would know by this point that it's going to require many transfusions of a lot of blood, and even if you have large volumes of it, it may not be much vitae.
How much is many transfusions?
The notes that you went over, it looks like they were done over about 3 nights on the one successful cainite, well, the one confirmed successful cainite.
But how many total transfusions?
Probably around 9.
Okay. It seems I may be coming into the livestock business. See if your contact can put me in touch with the broker for those sheep.
I'm sure he can.
And if there is enough time during downtime, I will do just that. Otherwise, I'll wait until downtime's done.
I don't think the other things that you're getting into are going to consume so much time that you can't get a hold of this man and exchange this information. So your goal here is to go to your contact who alerted you to this and get in contact with the broker.
And then make a purchase.
Yes, hopefully undercut those who were purchasing them in the first place.
I would say you definitely can get in contact with that broker who is willing to sell them if you are willing to pay significantly more than the current buyer. It's a large shipment of sheep, and to basically renege on a sale with a customer, you're informed that it's going to have to be quite a bit more than what's being offered.
I'll sweeten the pot, indeed.
Let me put it this way. The effective mechanic of this is you can do it, but it would bring you down by a dot of resources to make this kind of purchase.
Like a permanent dot?
Yes.
Ooh,
Wow.
pondering.
Sure, you want me to come back to you?
I need to talk through this out loud. Hold on.
Okay.
So my options are either make some people disappear. Simon will object, but drop a considerable volume of my own resources and cripple myself in the future. Or owe Tito a favor. I think I'll probably reach out to Tito.
Alright. Tito, you hear over this next week that Quentin has a proposition for you.
It seems I am indeed afflicted. In order to treat this plague, at least in cainites, I'll need a substantial volume of blood. There seems to be a shipment of livestock arriving in the port of London. But the broker won't sell for anything less than a very high premium price. Do you believe you could exercise your, we'll say, way with words? Convince him to see the error of his ways?
I could assist you with this.
But
I can't
will you?
do with you having the plague. Go ahead.
I don't need him to drastically reduce the price. Just sell to me for the same amount he was selling to his original buyer.
Simple enough task.
Excellent. I'll keep you in mind if you ever become so afflicted.
Wonderful. Let us hope this does not happen, but I appreciate the gesture.
Not something I'd wish on anyone.
Alright, so how do you mean to go about progressing with this plan?
Well, once Tito has convinced the seller to take my money instead of the other guys, basically going to bring the sheep to my estate and bleed them out and sell the meat and go about several days worth of transfusing while probably chained to a big table.
Has Quinn given thought to who will be doing the transfusions?
I have two options, as I see it. Well, three. None of them really elevate my confidence. Well, I don't have any contacts in the medical profession, but so 4 options. I can either have Tito do it, I could have Simon do it, I could have my ghoul do it, or I could try to reach out to an anonymous third party.
Who, of course, is,
Going to ask questions.
I was going to say, familiar with cainites at the very least.
I don't want to get the fucking drummer involved, though.
Well, if Tito's made privy to this, he would mention the man Simon had. Perhaps he was privy to knowledge of the kindred.
If I want this to work, if I don't want to turn into a puddle like Ford did, I need the best I can find. What was the name of that trimmer Abel spoke of? Cole Masters, I believe is what he said.
Indeed, you do hear over this week that it does sound like Cole Masters has been trying to get a hold of you.
I'll take his meeting then.
All right. I think that could be, depending on how it goes, that could be an interesting meeting. I might have us pause here before it gets too much later and have us start with that next session. What do you guys think?
I like it. It's gonna be a fun meeting.
I mean,
Good.
that whole my PC's life hanging in the balance thing kind of leads me towards wanting to do it now, but
Life schmife.
It's fine, probably.
Gee, thanks. Your vote of confidence swells my swells me with pride and faith.
All right, we'll pause here. I think this is a good stopping point. It's a perfect stopping point, actually. And we'll pick up next week.